This is an ancient Hebrew manuscript of the Book of Ruth, and right here we find a seemingly minor detail that completely reframes how we look at daily life. The story opens in a bleak reality. The region has been gutted by severe famine, and the local agricultural economy has effectively collapsed. Living inside that collapse is Ruth. She is a widow and a foreigner from Moab, navigating a society where she has absolutely zero financial or social safety net. Faced with starvation, she doesn't wait for a rescue. She goes directly into the fields to glean, doing the back-breaking, tedious labor of picking up leftover scraps of grain off the dirt just to survive another day. And this is where that specific manuscript detail comes in. The text states that she just so happened to land in a field owned by a wealthy, capable man named Boaz. It sounds incredibly lucky, but it forces us to ask, are the major life-saving turning points in our lives driven by random, chaotic chance? A closer reading shows something else entirely. The author uses this exact moment to show how God's unseen providential architecture disguises itself as an ordinary coincidence. The first rule of this providential architecture is surprisingly practical. Divine guidance almost always requires us to physically move first. Centuries later, a 17th-century French monk named Brother Lawrence would build his entire theology around this exact idea. Lawrence wasn't known for grand miracles or mystical visions. He believed the deepest spiritual connection occurred among the dirty pots and pans of the monastery kitchen. He realized the same truth Ruth proved out in the sun. Scrubbing dishes or sweating over dropped barley isn't a distraction from a spiritual life. True devotion is locking your focus on the unglamorous task right in front of you. It is snapping that single ear of wheat without self-pity, rather than sitting idle waiting for the sky to part. When you treat your mundane responsibilities with dignity, you step into the precise location where grace can actually intersect with your life. The other half of this intersection is Boaz. He owns the field, holds significant wealth, and carries heavy social influence. He also holds a very specific cultural title, the kinsman redeemer. This means he is a relative with the legal authority to rescue a destitute family line from total ruin. By law, landowners only had to leave the scraps they accidentally dropped, but Boaz actively orders his workers to drop extra grain on purpose, and he ensures Ruth is physically protected from harassment. When they finally speak, Boaz offers a blessing. He prays Ruth finds refuge under God's wings. But here is the paradox. God doesn't send a literal bird. Boaz's logistical orders, his instructions to protect and feed her, become the physical shelter he prayed for. It shows us that mystical protection isn't usually mysterious. It is overwhelmingly engineered through the financial, physical, and practical kindness of regular people acting as God's hands. If we pull out from that single handful of dropped grain, we can see the true scale of what happened. This one interaction between a faithful worker and a generous landowner cascades outward through history. Ruth and Boaz marry. They have a son, and that unbroken family line leads directly to King David, and ultimately to Jesus, which brings this ancient manuscript directly into our modern reality. We spend so much time waiting for massive, lightning bolt miracles to give us direction, but the text suggests we should look at our boring, repetitive daily duties and trust that guidance is hiding right there in the details. And when we pray for a solution to someone else's hardship, we have to recognize that we might be the required mechanism. We are supposed to become the physical bridge that solves it. In a universe governed by providence, there are no ordinary days. Our faithful labor and proactive grace are the hidden engine